Hi, welcome to the channel. Today I want to share with you 4 easiest specimens to be observed under the light microscope. So starting with number 4 are these animal muscles here. So what I've got here is 2 slides. One of them is skeletal muscle and the second one is a cardiac muscle. Muscles are very easy to be observed under the microscope because they are usually striped in shape and stained with very visible colors. So if you could see, like even without a microscope, you could actually see what you can kind of see what you're looking for because they are stained very nicely. Now this kind of depends on the quality of your microscope slides, but generally, if you're observing muscles, they are stained very nicely. Also, when you actually look through them under the microscope, they are packed closely. So you do not need to switch to like 1,000 times or even 400 times to see them. Okay, coming up at number 3, the parts of the plant cell. So now I've got here 3 parts, which is the root, the epidermis, and the stem. These are one of the most popular slides that beginners like me or students starting to use microscopes, they normally start with observing the parts of the plant cell, especially epidermis, and more especially the onion epidermis, because most people usually have an idea of what the onion epidermis looks, so it's actually very easy to find what they're looking for and observe them. It's the same with muscles. Onion epidermis is stained very nicely, and you can even prepare them in your home. You can just take out an onion and cut them into very thin pieces. If you know what you're doing, it's actually very easy to homemade an onion epidermis slide by yourself. Enough about the onion epidermis. Even with roots and stems, you can actually observe them with the 4 times objective, and you can already see some very amazing detail. You don't need to switch to higher magnifications, even though it may be better, but not necessary, because if you switch to say 400 times, you may only see 1 cell, and it's not very interesting. Coming up at number 2 is insects. What I've got here is parts of a bee leg, a mosquito mouth, and the body of a very small fly. And these insects are very easy to be observed under the microscope because they don't need to be stained. Of course, they are opaque and they already have color. Most insects, I think, are black and brown and brownish. So these colors, these pigments are generally very easy to be observed under the microscope. You could absolutely prepare insect slides by yourself. You just need to catch an insect and kill it and then put it on a microscope slide. But if you bought prepared slides, they almost always comes with some insects because they are just very easy to be observed under the microscope. It's the same with all the slides that I just mentioned. They can be observed easily with the 4 times objective. With these insects specimen, actually, they can only be observed under the 4 times magnification objective, because if you use the 10 times or even 40 times, they will zoom so closely that you actually won't be able to see anything. So what's the last specimen to be observed under the microscope easily? Well, that is tissue paper. So I don't even have a prepared slide of tissue papers because nobody likes to observe them because they are boring. But actually, if you are just starting out and learning how to use a microscope, it's very easy to get started using tissue paper. You don't even need glass slides to observe tissue paper with. You can just take one out and stick it under the light microscope, but bear in mind that you have to keep it quite flat. So yeah, and then use the full-time objective to observe it. And you could see a lot of fibers and details of tissue paper. Because if you just put tissue paper under the microscope, the paper is actually quite thick. So, and the depth of field of a microscope is actually very shallow. So you can actually practice focusing the microscope if you observe tissue paper. So that's it. That's my 4 easiest specimens to be observed under the microscope. Hope you enjoyed this video.